You couldn't have said it any better. I was just shocked that was a statement from a Man United fan. He's an overhyped, blonde-haired yard dog.
Have you seen the pre-season predictions from Monday Night Football and how they're done?
Yes, I have.
I think I'd like you to take this seriously. It's a very serious topic. It's basically Premier League champions. It's predicting who's going to get relegated, players to watch out for. We've both got ours and our versions of them. Let's start off with the Premier League champions. Who have you gone for?
Liverpool Football Club.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, I'm going to back my team. We did the prediction like before the season started, and from what I've seen at Bournemouth and the other teams around us, Arsenal look more dangerous than I thought they would. Obviously, big game against Newcastle in game week 2 for Liverpool. I think 3 points there, 3 points against Arsenal, and it's ours to lose.
Wow, amazing. I've gone with City. I still think City have got a long way to go, actually, but Pep tends to turn it around in the second half of the season, so I'm going to stick with them. Second, third, and fourth. I've gone second Liverpool, third Arsenal, and fourth I am sticking with Chelsea. Who have you got?
Same, but obviously swapping City for Liverpool. I've got City second, Arsenal third, and fourth Chelsea. I did have Chelsea third in the pre-season predictions, but like I said, Arsenal have sort of surpassed what I thought they'd be like this season, and I do think they'll get third.
I think the Gyökeres brace at the weekend, not that that's going to mean they finish higher, but I think if he had continued not scoring, then there would have been a bit of negativity around Arsenal. I think him getting off the mark and starting to score, that's massive for them, I think. So yeah, I fancy Arsenal definitely to be in the top 4, maybe in for a title challenge as well this season.
I think they'll try. I think they'll try and challenge. I think they'll take it pretty far. I really don't think that Mikel Arteta has got the nous and the mindset to get him through to an actual title win.
What about fifth? Now, I have changed my fifth option. Normally, I think I'd like to stick to what I predict at the start of the season, but seeing the United games and seeing the Tottenham games, I've completely flipped it on its head. I think Tottenham finished fifth, and I think Thomas Frank, there's something about him.
I've gone exactly the same, mate, with exactly the same logic. Got Spurs in fifth.
I think this season is the biggest season for managers to realise that sticking to one system that they wholeheartedly throw everything at and don't budge, that rigid mentality has to change. I think it's the season that people realise that versatility is the new kind of stick to your system, don't change for anyone. It's just the way we play, mate. Like, that sort of mentality is gone from the game. Thomas Frank's first couple of games in charge where I've seen him, like the PSG game was so impressive, and then completely switching up to a back 4 against Burnley in the opener, and then sticking with the back 4 against City, but still coming out and with a clean sheet. It's a new Tottenham, and it's solid. I really like it.
On one hand, you could say it's a new manager bounce, which there'll be an element of it, and players fighting for their positions and all that sort of thing. But he's obviously just a quality manager. And for them not to have conceded a goal in the Premier League, having played City, is nothing to be sniffed at. I do think that they might struggle in the long term to play consistently like that, but he's obviously a more clever manager than Ange Postecoglou. He's more calculated, more thought out, and he's got no ego in the sense that he just wants to win football games and doesn't really matter how he does that. And I think he was a case of sometimes managers can go to a club and they're too big. You've got plenty of examples of that. Graham Potter at Chelsea is a huge example, but I do not think that Tottenham is too big for Thomas Frank. I think he might actually be a perfect fit for them.
I think Tottenham have found their manager, and it's easy to say that and get carried away so early on in the season, but that first game against PSG in the Super Cup, there was something different, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And I think they're one superstar away from being, a title challenge inside this season, I think. Well, the talks are that Harry Kane comes back next season. Apparently, he'd committed that when he leaves Tottenham that there was always going to be an option to come back, and yeah, maybe he's that player. But I think Tottenham just one player short, one superstar short of being a really, really serious contender for a title. That said, as well, I suppose conversely, I've swapped Man United down to 6th rather than 5th. Reason being versatility. We've seen from Ruben Amorim that he has a system that he likes to play, and it's almost like he is refusing to budge, and I think there are moments that needs it a bit of a change. And watching at the weekend, watching against Fulham, you see that Ahmad comes in for Dalot, and I like that idea because you're going a little bit more attacking, but that's maybe a game that you go 4-4 or 4-3-3 or 4-4-2 or however you play it, but you go for it at the back, you take a defensive player out, and maybe you go with a Cobby in midfield, and you take, I don't know, do you take a wing back off? I think the biggest problem with United this season, I think we're going to see this a lot, is we are very right-sided heavy in terms of real quality. If Cunha isn't drifting outside on the left, Dorgu and Shaw, who tend to be the ones linking up when Man United are pushing forward, there's not enough quality, there's not enough to put defenders on the back foot and really worry when they come forward.
I don't think, after watching these two games, and yes, obviously it's early, I don't think you've got enough quality and unity to get in the top 6. I've gone with Newcastle myself, which is controversial in itself because it doesn't look like this Isak situation is going to get sorted. I just think that they've got more of a togetherness than United. You still seem a little bit disjointed, and it's really difficult because I watch all of the Inside Liverpool videos on the YouTube channel and the All Red channels and things, and they just seem like a really, really tight-knit group. And then I see videos on social media of some of the United players and clips, and all of the social media fans are saying, "Oh, look how well they're getting on," and all this sort of stuff. It's nothing like your Liverpool unity. And Newcastle, their group of players, if it's true that they've been divided by the Isak situation, which I don't think it is, I think they're a really close group, and I think they might have a little bit more quality than United to pip you to that 6th spot. I do think you'll get top 7, but I'm not sure you'll make the top 6.
I don't think you're wrong, and like this is the thing with United, I have that heavy bias towards them, and I think it's something that's going to work. I watched the opening 10-15 minutes of the game at the weekend, and watching Cunha pick the ball up and Bruno and Mount interchange in midfield, I really, really liked it. And then the old demons came back, and it took one bit of a wobble in the game, which was the Bruno missed penalty, and all of a sudden we were on the back foot for the last sort of 60 minutes of the game, and it was really difficult for them to find that mentality to stay in it and get back. If they're not at Old Trafford, it seems like it's really difficult to find their way back in their game when something doesn't quite go right. So yeah, surprise European contender, I've gone with Spurs, considering I think they are going to finish 5th this season, so I won't go any further into that. Who have you got?
Okay, I went down a slightly different route, and someone that might be pushing to get into Europe in the sort of the dregs of the places, and it pains me to say it, but I think Everton might make a push.
Based off the opening couple of games, you think?
Yeah, the quality that Jack Grealish has added almost instantly, the creativity, the how direct they are now. It only takes either Barry or Beto to start sort of getting on the end of things consistently and having a link up between him, between Grealish, one of those two, and Dye, and then they could score goals. And that's really Everton's biggest problem, is they're not known for sort of scoring 2-3 goals a game. I will be at the Hill Dickinson when we play Everton away, so I will reserve my judgments fully until then, but I do think that it's going to give them a bit of a new lease of life. They all seem to be absolutely over the moon with it, and it goes one of two ways, new stadiums, so it'll either sort of be they'll be missing Goodison and it not work out, and the Everton fans, if it doesn't go well, they'll start booing, and that'll be that. But they're due a good season. It just seems a little bit different. The vibes are there from what I saw yesterday.
The Pickford penalty save, the Jack Grealish couple of assists at the weekend, they're a really solid unit. And the Leeds game, I think they got a lot of unfair criticism for the opener against Leeds, because going to Ellen Road on like the first game of the season for Leeds being back in the Premier League, it was always going to be tough, and I thought Leeds were absolutely brilliant. It was a chalk and cheese compared to what the Arsenal game was, but I thought Everton really struggled in that game, but I think that was a really big credit to Leeds and how they were. Talking to Leeds, relegated teams, I've gone for Sunderland, Burnley, Leeds, the 3 promoted sides. I like what I've seen from Leeds, but the Arsenal game probably snaps all the Leeds fans back into reality that the Premier League's not as easy as turn up to Ellen Road, get behind the team and sneak a 1-0 win. It's going to be 4 and 5 against the City, Liverpool, Arsenal sort of team. So yeah, I've stuck with them. I don't think I see enough from Burnley, and I don't think Sunderland can keep up what they've done. Obviously that first game against West Ham, but we know what West Ham are all about this season. So yeah, who have you gone for?
I agree with you with Leeds and Burnley. I do think for these promoted teams in a relegation battle, it's going to be all home form. They can't expect to be getting many points away. Draws against the mid-table teams would be good results for them, I think. But I know Brentford won on the weekend, but I do think that Sunderland might have more. Just that the fact that they haven't been in the Premier League for a while, the home support might pull them through, and I don't see Brentford doing anything this season. It looks as though they might be able to keep Visser, which will be a huge coup for them after what's been going on with social media and him deleting everything. But I said Brentford in the pre-season predictions. I'm going to stick with that. So Brentford, Leeds and Burnley.
The only reason I don't say Brentford is there's two main reasons. I think the signing of Dango Tara is a really, really good one. I think he's really, really quality, and I'm surprised Bournemouth let him go. There must have been a financial fair play situation there where they're trying to adhere to some sort of financial implications. But also Kevin Schade, I think he's a really, really good player, and I think between them two, can they fill in for Burmo and Visser last season? Probably not, but can they have a good go? I think they can score goals, and we saw at the weekend again that they can keep a clean sheet like that. Going to Villa, who's seeing Villa getting beat by Brentford? Nobody, absolutely nobody. Keith Andrews masterclass.
I wouldn't go that far.
We might see it this season. He might prove us all wrong. And then we've got Danger Zone. This is a team that we think maybe haven't been considered, but it looks like they might struggle this season. I've gone West Ham. I think that's fairly obvious, and I'm assuming you've probably gone the same.
I haven't. I've gone Wolves.
Wow. Do you think West Ham are going to be okay?
No, I just think Jarrod Bowen is a huge factor in getting them or winning them games or getting them results when Wolves haven't really got that sort of talisman. I think West Ham have got more quality. I do think Graham Potter might end up being one of the first to go, but it's just, I know Newcastle have bid for Strand Larsen and they're refusing. If they lose him, they've literally got no one to score goals.
Yeah, you're right. If I probably haven't considered that. If Strand Larsen, it was £40 million bid was rejected. Is that right?
50.
50.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't want to sound outlandish, but I think he's worth it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think he's been quiet for what Wolves would have wanted from him. I think when you sign someone that's from abroad and a different, not an English name, you immediately think, oh, there's got to be something here. And I think they might have thought he would have hit the ground running a bit more. But he's contributed more than people would think, and he's a good player, and Newcastle obviously need a striker, and in that team when you've got wingers like Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, you're going to get fed. So I don't know, I think Wolves are crazy for rejecting that amount of money, because they could reinvest, because there's a couple of positions that they need to strengthen or at least get back up for. So to reject that sort of money is crazy to me. But if they do lose him, then if they don't replace it, I suppose you've only got a week left to do it, and who's going to be begging to go to Wolverhampton Wanderers?
That's the thing, is Wolves, if they sell Strand Larsen, then they've got £50 million that they're probably going to have to keep in the bank because they've got no one to buy. The only option then would be to look to the Championship and maybe someone who's started really well. I mean, I've said on here how much of a fan I am of Haji Wright. Maybe someone like that, someone who can grab you a goal, physical presence, someone who can hold the ball up, get you out of tight spots maybe. But yeah, I think if he goes, you're right, maybe they will be in it. Top scorer, I've gone Haaland. I think we talked about this, so I won't go any further, but I think Haaland's in for a big season.
Yeah, I've got the same.
And what about impact signing? This one's interesting. So I've put two, because one is very biased and one I don't think is. The first one, I've gone for Matheus Cunha, because I think he's the exact personality that Man United are going to need this season. Someone that we probably haven't had that level of quality up top since Ronaldo was there. Someone who will take and shoulder the responsibility. Someone who's going to pick the ball up and drive and produce moments of quality. Could have scored a couple of goals at the weekend. Once he gets off and running, he will score a lot of goals for Man United. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. The other one is a really strange one, but João Palhinha to Tottenham, I think, could be one of the biggest impact signings of the season, because what it has done is knit that midfield and defence together. We all know their back four is phenomenal. They've got Pedro Porro, Jed Spence's a really good player, and then they've got a back two which is among some of the best in world football. Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero, two top class centre halves. So they've always had that problem of, can they stop conceding goals? And I think a defensive midfielder who can not just control a game, dictate the tempo, but someone who can get back, make tackles, interceptions, be in the right place and defend. I think João Palhinha proved at Fulham how good he was in the Premier League. So I think that is a fantastic sign. I'm really impressed by Spurs pulling that one off, because I didn't see that coming at all.
Well, I don't need to do my impact signing.
What, have you gone João Palhinha?
Yeah, I had Palhinha as
wow.
well. It just impressed me so
him,
much.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it's. We talk about. I've always been a big believer. No matter what formation you play in football, you need a spine. You need a decent goalkeeper, at least one sort of world class or incredibly good centre back, a brilliant central midfielder, whether that's defensively or in the centre, and then a decent striker up top. And I think Spurs, with that Palhinha addition, have kind of either got it or very, very close to having it. He's just so assured. He's almost got he can be a nasty player, but he's almost got an arrogance about him that he knows how good he is. But he doesn't portray it in a way that makes you dislike him. I just think he's a really tidy player. Can pass through the lines, break the play up, link things up. He's a really, really good football player, and to bring him in to almost like steady the boat, steady the ship, and just get them playing football again, getting things ticking over. I think he's a brilliant signing.
Yeah, I really like that midfield, what's coming together now. It seems like they've settled on it, that you'll have Palhinha, but then you've got Bentancur, who's a lovely footballer, and then you've got Pat Matasar, who I think is in for a big season. I think people are going to realise how good he is this season as well. Like, that balance in midfield, it's very defensive, but when they're playing in transition, you know, you've got the pace of Kudus and Brennan Johnson, and then you've got the quality in terms of from the back. You know, Mickey van der Ven can carry the ball forward and break lines. You've got players that can break the lines instead of the midfielders. So I don't think you need those ball carrying midfielders. I think you just need someone who's going to be back there and control the tempo. And I think João Palhinha, being not just in the Portuguese national side playing big games against top level opposition, I think being at Bayern Munich even for a season will give him that feeling of being at a big club and understanding, you know, how to control a game when things are really tough. You know, playing in the Champions League, playing for Bundesliga titles. I think that was big for him. But I was so shocked. I couldn't believe that they signed him. I honestly couldn't. When they signed him, I thought, well, if Tottenham have signed him, then why didn't Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal? Why didn't any of that? Like Arsenal, that's a player that you'd be crying out for. I'm shocked by Arsenal not going for someone like Palhinha.
Yeah, it's for the teams that need someone to do the basics and actually get some reward from those basics. Teams like Man United could really use someone like that, even if you don't see him, or Ruben Amorim didn't see him as a starter, which I think he would be. How perfect to have to come off the bench and control a game if you win it, rather than conceding like you have been for the last however many games. You go 1-2 up and it's never sort of like concrete that you're going to win that game. So yeah, it's one of those transfers, isn't it? When it happens, you think, hold on a minute, why has no one else gone in for him?
Yeah, what is everyone else seeing that I'm not? Because it looked like you said, a no-brainer. I saw that sign and I thought, ooh, hello. Like, Tottenham might be a decent team this season, because you saw the impact he had at Fulham, and like that's a player who should be playing in the top 6 teams 100%. So yeah, player to watch. I've gone with Hugo Ekitike. I think he's one of the players that probably impressed me the most so far this season. For a new signing, a player who's so young, to look so accomplished so early, so confident. And I think even if Liverpool do sign Alexander Isak, I think Ekitike will still hold a place in that side. Whether he plays off the left or not, I don't know. But I can't see. I think he's been Liverpool's best player this season. I don't know about you.
What, one game?
2 games.
What's the other game? Oh, the Community Shield.
Palace. Yeah, I thought he was brilliant. I
was just shocked that was a statement from a Man United fan. Yeah, I agree. He's looked so sharp. And I mean, I took one of our good friends to the Bournemouth game, and constantly when he was on the ball, we were looking at each other, sort of almost like, what is this guy? How is he playing so well when sort of you think the occasion might get to him? Because I'll be honest, in pre-season there was a bit of the Darwin Núñez about him, balls bouncing off him and things like that, and he just looked so assured and so cocksure of himself that he was going to dominate those games, and he did. 2 early goals in both games. Really, I think with him it's going to be a case of he's going to need to keep scoring to really keep that up, because in a Liverpool side where you've got your Mo Salahs and Cody Gakpo, who seems to be scoring a lot, if you're then the one that's not doing that, I wonder what that would do to his mentality. But he just seems to have a bit more of a brain than someone like Darwin Núñez, and I think he'll be absolutely fine. I haven't got a Liverpool player as my player to watch, but if I did have one, it would probably be him.
Who is your player to watch?
I'm sort of sticking to this, and it's Esteval. Just because the little cameos he's been making have just been so exciting, annoyingly, because I really, really dislike Chelsea as a football club and how they run things and whatever. But he's a player that even as a rival fan, you want to watch. He's tricky, he's direct, he's got sort of just that flair that you expect from the South Americans, and with so many players, it's going to be difficult for him to cement a place, and his age might go against him with that. But to be so young and be that good already, it is crazy.
He's a superstar, absolutely, 100%. And I would put everything I own on him becoming a success at Chelsea. And whether it is Chelsea that he really fulfills his potential, maybe moves abroad, I don't see him staying long at Chelsea, because I think he'll get good enough that it wouldn't be long until Real Madrid or Barcelona or someone like that comes in with £100+ million bid and takes him off Chelsea. And there's no doubt, like, Esteval will probably feel like he's made it. He's in the Premier League playing for a top club, but when one of those big boys come knocking, I think a lot of the Brazilians, they like to go to Real Madrid, don't they? They see that as the pinnacle. So yeah, we'll see. But you are 100% right. I think it is, and I think it would probably end up being like a swap deal or someone, and Chelsea would just have to take it. But I have no doubt he is the next superstar in the Premier League. I have absolutely no doubt. From the games that I watched a lot of highlights of him last season, because I did a little piece on him talking about how great a talent he was. I think he was even younger than Rodrigo and Neymar in terms of signing a deal with Nike. Like, someone obviously spotted his talent very early on and saw what a superstar he could be. I think he's made 15 appearances for the Brazilian national team already. Like, this is the banker. This is the one that can't fail. This is the one that never fails. This is absolutely nailed on. He is going to be a world-class talent, and I think if he can get into that side, which I think he will, I don't think there's much taking him out of it. Like, you watched the game without Cole Palmer. I'm not saying Cole Palmer's the problem, but the game against Palace compared to the game against West Ham, I know we're looking at 2 different oppositions, but Esteval playing in that role with a player that can get in behind and pick up the ball from deep and drive. Cole Palmer's very neat and tidy and can make things happen, and he's a genius on the ball. But if you look at what Estevao did, it's so different, and I think Chelsea really needed that because they became a little bit stuck against Palace. Whereas West Ham, they looked dynamic, they looked front-footed, and they looked like they could score
free-flowing
as many goals as they wanted. Yeah, and it was nice to see that. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm saying that's a neutral. Like, I liked watching Chelsea, and it was nice to see a football team with all this talent, like, really knit it together and see all the goals going in. I'm sick of 0-0s.
Yeah, and games having 5 goals in them, but none of them actually counting.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. We'll get onto VAR and stuff like that in a bit. Last one is manager to watch. I've talked about him, Thomas Frank. Like I said, this is the season that managers realise that they have to be versatile. There's no more stick to your system. It's pragmatic, and it's trying to play the opposition that's in front of you rather than the style of play that you envisage. I think there will be a big culture shift in football off the back of one of these managers finding a way to win against every different side, because what PSG showed last season in the Champions League is they had a style, they had a system that caught a lot of other teams out because of the quality, but because a lot of teams just didn't know how to stop them. Chelsea showed, in the Club World Cup that there's a way to stop them, and then all of a sudden PSG are kind of stumbling, and they stumbled against Tottenham, and they've stumbled in their first couple of games 1-0 and 1-0. So they're struggling to find the same form as last season, and a manager that can adapt in-game and for different games I think is going to be vital. Thomas Frank is absolutely that type of manager. So yeah, I've gone for him as the manager to watch.
Yeah, same, mate. Absolutely same. I don't like sort of bringing everything back to Liverpool, but it's obviously what I know. And the reason that Arne Slot impressed so many Liverpool fans last season, not just obviously winning the league, is how he dealt with in-game management and sort of coming up against different types of opposition that were going to give you a different problem or no problem in terms of the low block that you had to get around. And I do completely agree with you with the Thomas Frank. He just seems like a bit of a football obsessive, and he'll play the team rather than his own team, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that he'll propel them. Obviously, Champions League football is big for them as well. If they can cope with that, then great. If they don't, then you might be looking at a little bit of a drop off. But I think he'll manage them well, manage the team well, manage the players well, and rotate as accordingly to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I think we've gone fairly similar predictions. Just quickly touch on United and Liverpool. Because Liverpool haven't played at the time of recording, obviously I can ask you what your prediction is, but what do you see from United at the weekend? Do you see any reason for hope for United fans? Do you think Man United have a real problem with the manager? Do you think there's players that don't belong there still?
I think I think you were all right to be excited pre-season, and I think you were all right to be encouraged after the Arsenal game. I think that Fulham game has showed, maybe too early to be sort of really digging into Amorim, but I think there are still some fundamental problems at United. I think it's a mentality. I've touched on it being a togetherness. I think you've got quality. I think with your likes of Cunha, Mbeumo, Bruno Fernandes, Lenny Yoro, De Ligt, your keeper's a big issue. Really, really big issue, because you can't be going from an absolute yard dog in Onana to then go into Bayern Deer. They're just
yard dog.
Yeah, they've got to be two of the worst goalkeepers.
What do you mean by yard dog?
He just gets dragged everywhere by everyone, doesn't he? He just gets pulled apart by people.
What makes him a yard dog?
Oh, he's just the arrogance of flipping Buffon, but he's got the ability of Barthez.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Onana's not the keeper, and Bayern Deer obviously isn't the goalkeeper, and they need a goalkeeper. I can't believe we didn't wrap up the Donnarumma deal, try and offer him the world, because that is ultimately going to be the biggest thing that gets us back as a goalkeeper. So yeah,
there's not many goalkeepers on the market, and if there is one that's a world-class top goalkeeper, you just go with everything you've got.
And we know you don't have to pay goalkeepers the world. You don't have to pay massive money for goalkeepers either. So if you could have the right project and offer that to Donnarumma, and also offer him a big package, then why didn't they do it? I don't understand why they wouldn't do it, because we're now going to have to spend 100 million quid plus on a midfielder. We're going to bring in, it looks like that Sam Lamens or something from... this is an unknown quantity, whereas you get Donnarumma, like you said, you know what you're getting. You're getting a world-class goalkeeper. Go and get him, shore up that back line, and then worry about the rest, because he'll take care of a lot of issues, Donnarumma would, overnight. So
just really quickly before we move on about the problems with United, not just on the field. I was helping a couple of lads sort out tickets for the United Arsenal game. £150 for a standard seat.
Yeah.
We can't be in a world where that's happening. Morning of the match, £150 for some of them were in the gods that I was picking up. Like, that's just not right. That's a huge problem.
The size of the fixture obviously dictates that, but as we mentioned, I think before, you've got a game against Burnley that's 84 quid, and at what point does this now become just unaffordable for your average everyday working class football fan? We live in a world where your Sky package, your BT Sports or Discovery, whatever you want to call it now, and then you've got to pay for Prime. Your overall outgoings to watch your team becomes sort of £100 to £200 a month. And then if you can't even go to the game for sort of 40 quid, then what world do we live in? What is the point?
Yeah, we can't be in a position where it costs more to watch your team from home than it would do live. But if it switches to the other way, where we're talking about £100, I mean, I get the London clubs and all that sort of thing being 80, 90 quid. I still think it's disgusting, but I get it. It's that sort of the economy of that place and whatever. But Manchester is a working class city, so to be having them at 150 quid, yeah, they need to have a look at themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I mentioned to you that I was going to put a little questionnaire up before the episode for as many people as possible could see it. It was over on Instagram. I asked the Instagram followers to name a player that they think is underrated and we should be looking out for this season. Just a couple of responses got in before we started recording. Alicia said Josh King at Fulham. What do you think of him?
I remember the Sunderland documentary, and Josh King was part of that, wasn't he? He moved there on deadline day. Is that right?
We're talking Josh King as in
ex-Man United
18-year-old.
Oh
no, that was the old Josh King. There's a new Josh King. Right. If you haven't watched any Fulham games, he played actually Sunday. He played a bit last season as well. He's a real talent. He's 18 years old and looks like he looks like a Premier League player already. I wouldn't be surprised if Fulham start him every game.
The academy player.
Yeah, came through. As far as I know, came through the academy. He's 18 years old, but he played a bit last season. I watched a couple of games where he came on as substitute, and I was really impressed by how intelligent he was. He looks like he's filling that sort of number 10 role that maybe Harry Wilson or Emile Smith-Rowe will want, so he's got a lot of competition. But yeah, I thought that was a decent shout, Josh King at Fulham. Rich Mate said Elliot Anderson. I think we all know the potential for Elliot Anderson, so yeah, I think he's one to watch out for. I was really impressed by him and Alex Scott in the Euros over the summer as well, so I think the pair of them really good shouts. Anton said Mason Mount.
For which one? Underrated?
Underrated, yeah. Players to watch out for.
I'd have him in my overrated, personally.
Wow. And MUFC Union said Lenny Yoro, and we spoke about Lenny Yoro. But MUFC Union's a pretty big page. There's about 100,000 followers on their page. And I think what's interesting is United fans do, and I said this last week, but United fans do really rate him, and I think it's only us at the moment that really see how good he is. So yeah, you've got your own list, though I asked you to come up with 5 players that you think are underrated or overrated, and you're going to list them for me.
Do you want me to list them and then you tell me whether you think it's in the underrated or overrated category?
Yeah, good shout. Well, you tell me. I'll tell you whether I think it's overrated or underrated, and then you explain why.
Okay. Alexis McAllister.
Overrated.
He's obviously underrated. We had a bit of a back and forth on the group chat about the sort of Bruno Fernandes, Bruno Guimaraes, McAllister start bench sell. Look, at the end of the day, he is absolutely integral to Liverpool's midfield. He's not the superstar that he's going to be scoring goals every week and assisting consistently. But we talk about a spine and making us tick. We are far, far worse without him. And I'm gutted that he's not going to be playing against Newcastle, because I think that game gets won in midfield. And I think Alexis McAllister is someone that helps us win that game in midfield. One of the big reasons why I think he's underrated is he does not get the credit for how intelligent he is on a football pitch. It's not all about the fancy stuff and the Hollywood passes and all that sort of stuff, although he can pull them off. We've seen it plenty of times. He's got a crossfield diag, he's got through balls, the short, easy stuff he's an expert at, breaking up play. But just how he reads the game and how clever he is doesn't get talked about enough. And I think in the same way that you guys say about Lenny Yoro, and it's only really United fans that see it, I don't think anyone else from any Premier League team actually rates McAllister that highly, but we think he's the absolute best.
I don't think he's not a really good player. I think where I say he's overrated is that people put him in the same class as a Bruno Fernandes, and when we do these debates, start, bench, sell, Bruno Fernandes, Bruno Guimaraes and Alexis McAllister, you're starting Bruno Fernandes, you're benching Alexis McAllister, and you're selling Bruno Guimaraes. But I think the gap between Bruno Fernandes and Alexis McAllister is far bigger than the gap between McAllister and Bruno Guimaraes, and I think that's where I think Liverpool fans just overrate him.
See, I think I disagree, and for the sake of time and arguments, I think I'll move on from it. But I think we could do a whole section on Fernandes and McAllister.
McAllister's quality, don't get me wrong.
He doesn't miss
a really
penalties
quality
as well.
player. Take him. Who else you got?
Jean-Philippe Mateta.
Underrated.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't completely convinced with him when he first came to Palace. I was at the Palace at Selhurst Park when we beat him 2-1, late Harvey Elliott goal, and Mateta had scored in that game, and they started playing the Venga Boys as his goal song, and it just immediately made me think he's got to be Tim Pot, if he's got, because you never know if they requested it or whatever. Since then, the power and ability that he has on the ball for such a big bloke, brilliant in the air, technically very good with his feet, can finish anything. I don't think he gets talked about enough, and I think if he was at a Man United or a Newcastle, he'd score absolute bags of goals. He's got an unbelievable return, like 16 and 14 goals in the Premier League back-to-back seasons. Is so impressive for a player from Crystal Palace.
I think you're right. I think if he played for Chelsea, for Arsenal, Liverpool, I think he'd score 20 plus.
Yeah,
I think he's that good.
Fantastic player.
I agree. Who's next?
Martin Odegaard.
Overrated.
Yeah, and before I go on, would you agree with that or not?
I think last season was probably his worst ever season, and I think the drop off from the season prior was so big that it has skewed everyone's judgment on him. So I understand if you went overrated or underrated. The season before last, he was so good. He was one of the best midfielders in the league, if not the best midfielder in the league that season. So I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's potentially world class when it works for him. But when it doesn't, oh my God, he stinks the place out. Doesn't he?
And this is sort of my justification. I'm a massive fan of him. He's sort of a career mode / football manager icon because of how young he was when he went to Real Madrid. And I sort of followed him from there through his career, and he's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but he might actually be Arsenal's problem, because there are some games, like you said there, where he really struggles to make them tick, and he's sort of driving forward with the ball, making the wrong decision, whether he goes out to Saka or plays it through the middle, ends up losing the ball, and he does it on a really consistent basis. And like I said, Arsenal fans are the most emotional going, and they'll all come at us in the comments or whatever. But I think deep down they know that he is a bit of a problem for them, because they've got such good quality up top, and if he's not feeding them correctly or making the right decisions, they won't score as many goals as if they had someone that was doing the right thing.
I think with Odegaard, it's very much if he's on it, Arsenal are on it. If he's off it, they really struggle.
They need him to sharpen up if they want to win the league.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think if Odegaard doesn't have a good season, Arsenal just don't win the league. It's simple as that. What about your last one? Just very quickly, I have got one that I've written down that I want to talk about. And before you finish your last one, mine in the underrated, overrated is Ryan Gravenberch.
Now, you're going to be a right knob and say he's overrated.
Ryan Gravenberch is underrated.
Underrated?
It kills me as a United fan to admit this sort of stuff and talk about a player and glaze a player for Liverpool. But Ryan Gravenberch is an unbelievable talent. Ruud Gullit actually said that he is the most important player for the Dutch national team. He is a young player, 23 years old, asked to play a six, and under that new management regime, the new system, he was one of the best players in the Premier League last season. This guy could turn in a coffin. He has got such tight control. His body feints and then his movement, his first touch is absolutely outstanding. There's not a player in the world that I think I can compare him to, because he's got all the elegance and grace of a Toni Kroos, but he's got all the physicality of a player that you'd expect someone of his height, of his stature to have. He's an unbelievable player. Third most interceptions in the league last season. He came to Bayern as a teenager for a hefty fee, to be fair, for a teenager, and 40 million quid then to Liverpool. I think he's repaid that and then some. I think he's now one of the best midfielders in the league.
I'm going to record that and play it over and over on my phone forevermore, mate. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said it any better, and I'm really glad that that's come from you, because if I was to say it, a lot of people would come in and say, oh, he's not that good, Jesus Christ, glaze in, blah 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 blah. But he is that good, and none of us expected it. It's not like we're all saying we told you so or anything like that. No one thought that when he came in and dropped into that six that he was going to be as monstrous as he is. The interceptions, as you pointed out there, are a huge part of the game. But I mean, every Liverpool fan will tell you, as soon as he's got a ball being rolled to him from a defender and there's a player on his back, you just know they're getting done. And then all of a sudden you've taken a player or two out of the game, and we're in that transition going forward. It's so effective and so important to how we score goals. And I think, although we beat Bournemouth, we definitely missed that sort of shored up defensive midfielder to stop a few of those goals. That Semenyo goal doesn't happen with Gravenberch on the pitch.
Yeah, got legs, can run all day, and like I said, the way he brings the ball in, I love a player, like when he sees a ball coming to him, he's checking twice. He's seeing the player pressing, he's welcoming that press, and he's feinting and touching it the other way. He moves his body weight and then moves the other way, takes a player out the press, and all of a sudden you're in transition. And because he's a great ball carrier and you've got great runners off him, no wonder Liverpool score so many goals, and no wonder they're such a hard team to play against, because he's a monster. That is enough from me about that. Who's your fifth player that is underrated or overrated?
It's actually the fourth, but we'll wrap it up because you've added one in. I wouldn't have done this had it not been for all the gobby Newcastle fans online this week, and it is Joe Linton. Might be, by them, the most overrated midfielder. I called Onana a yard dog. This guy, he's just an absolute brute in midfield. They are basing their whole personality for this game off Joe Linton smashing into players. If that's the only thing that you can hope for in a game against Liverpool, you're going to struggle. I quite liked him before, but he's a failed striker. He's had to come back into midfield to even get a position in the Newcastle team. Their fans would have you believe that he'll be arrested for murder come 10 p.m. on Monday night. He's an overhyped, blonde-haired yard dog.
Can I just say, I think you're way off on that one. I agree with you that I think Newcastle fans overrate him. I don't agree with you the fact that he's a yard dog, because I don't really know what that means. But I think he has got so much ability in midfield that is so unexpected from a striker, someone who was built to be a centre forward. Physicality is the main part of his game, but he gets about the pitch, doesn't stop running, and he's good on the ball. Like him and Bruno as a little pivot. Oh my God, I think they're brilliant. I think actually Tonali, Bruno, and Joe Linton, I think arguably one of the best midfielders in the league.
Look, he is a good player, and that has come from depth of anger at seeing these lot hype this game up to be a boxing match rather than a game of football. They should be focusing on their ability as a team with a very good midfield, and Joe Linton being included in that, instead of focusing the entire thing on how hard he is and how he's going to go through players. I'd love him to. I'd love nothing more tonight than for him to fly into a few tackles, get himself sent off, and give us the advantage. I think it's a crazy sort of take to have on the game, that they just want to be smashing into us from the off. By the way, because we've made a bid for a player that wants to leave. They've just bid 50 million for Strand Larsen after being told that he's absolutely not for sale. What have we done differently in that situation?
I honestly couldn't agree more, and I'm a United fan, and I couldn't agree more with a Liverpool fan. What have Liverpool done wrong or differently than Newcastle would do for a player they want to sign? You're trying to sign a player, the player wants to go. You did exactly the same probably to get Isak in. You did exactly the same to get Anthony Gordon unsettled at Everton and sign him. I don't get why Newcastle fans feel like they're the only team that nobody should buy a player from. You do the exact same to every other team. And this whole thing where it's like, oh, us versus you now, and this is our rivalry. Get over it. Your rivalries don't exist. Your rivalry is with Sunderland. It's not with Man United. It's not with Liverpool. We are way out of your league. Focus on who you are on the same level with, and that's Sunderland at the end of the day.
It's dangerous for them to be doing it, because it's part of the reason that they're in this mess of not having a striker and not being able to sign anyone, is that they've got too far ahead of themselves too quickly. Also, sorry for offering you 100+ million for a player. British transfer record fee, and then moaning that...
We're so... Mate, honestly, they drive me nuts, but because it is Liverpool, I am going to side with the Newcastle fans here.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll get him after tonight anyway. Tomorrow or Wednesday it'll blow up. We'll put a bid in. They just didn't want... I've said it from the start. They don't want any noise before this game that might put anyone off or give us an extra advantage. Of course, they're not going to let us sign him beforehand with a week left to go so he can train with us and potentially play. They're never going to do that. Get tonight out the way, and then you're going to have a situation where we'll go in at 135, 140, and they'll sell him.
Yeah, I think so. Right, let's wrap this show up. Day one FPL, just a big thank you to everyone who entered. There was over 1,200 people before I had to stop it. Please stick to the rules, because I've already had to kick about 60 people out. I will be talking about your teams in the coming weeks once I've figured out who's actually following the rules and who's top and who's second. But until then, I'm going to have to just figure it out. Weekend treble time, Brand. Last week was a sickener for me. I had one selection let me down. It was Barcelona. They won 3-2. I had the -1. The other two selections came in. So we've both lost a tenner. But because of our first week, we're both up. My weekend treble this week, first selection is Man United to beat Burnley. Second selection is Leeds versus Newcastle, both teams to score. And third selection is Bayern over 1.5 goals away at Augsburg. £10 gets you £26.40 back. What is yours?
Reluctantly, I'm going to want Man United to win this weekend, because I've also got Man United to win at home to Burnley. I've got Chesterfield to win at home against Crawley, and I've got Dortmund to win it against Union Berlin. A simple home team treble, £10 on gets you £26.58 back.
Very good. You're leading at the moment. We've both had one come in, but you're leading by £3 or £4. So I need this one to come in. I thought I had you last week, so I'm a bit gutted about that. Just a little call for action for everyone who's still made it till the end of the video. If you're still watching, go and follow that man to my right or left. I don't know which way he's going to be. Brandon, it's at WasLFC on TikTok. He's got everything Liverpool and everything delusional on there. I am delusional over on at Alex Goalposts on TikTok. You'll also find me on Instagram for all the best bits as well. If you haven't subscribed, go and subscribe to this channel right now. We are here every single week of the season for the rest of the season. You'll find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you don't want to watch us and you just want to listen to us. But otherwise, good luck for tonight, Brand. Liverpool versus Newcastle. By the time everyone's listening and watching to this, the result will be in and Newcastle will have won 3 or 4-0.
Goodbye, everyone.